At 5:02 local time on May 27, 2026, over occupied Crimea, the morning begins with sirens. Not birds, not church bells, sirens. They roll across Simferopol, spill over the ridgelines, and pour down into Sevastopol Bay like somebody has opened a valve marked panic. Russian occupation channels snap awake, phones buzz, telegram lights up. Somewhere inside an air defense command post, a tired radar operator leans closer to his scope and watches the Black Sea start lying to him. Multiple contacts, drone threat, aircraft threat, your ex, maybe decoys, maybe missiles, maybe the usual Ukrainian psychological breakfast buffet. But one contact matters more than all the others. It is low, it is fast, it is quiet, and it is already coming. At roughly 150 meters above the Black Sea, a Storm Shadow cruise missile skims the water at Mach 0.95, close enough to make the waves feel underdressed. Its small turbojet drinks the morning air. Its guidance computer compares coastline, terrain, and pre-programmed maps with the cold patience of a librarian sorting obituaries. The missile weighs 1,300 kilograms. Its warhead weighs 450. That warhead has a name, BROACH. Bomb Royal Ordnance Augmented Charge. Very British name, very unfriendly personality. 2 stages. First, a precursor charge punches a hole through reinforced concrete. Then, the main charge follows through that hole and detonates inside the target. Not outside, not on the roof, inside. Because sometimes manners matter. And this missile has been taught to knock before entering. Its destination is a 3-story building on Gogol Street, Sevastopol, the headquarters for Russian Black Sea Fleet air operations, a backup command center, a safer address, a place Russia moved into after Ukraine already wrecked the previous one. That is the problem with backup plans. They still require Ukraine to stop paying attention. Ukraine does not stop paying attention. 503, Sevastopol Air Defense Sector. Russian radar operators begin sorting ghosts from knives. Their screens are crowded with returns. Some are drones, some are clutter, some are probably nothing. The Black Sea at dawn throws birds, waves, ships, temperature inversions, and every other radar headache into the same soup. The S-400 battery, watching the northwestern approach, keeps rotating its gravestone radar, painting the air with enough electromagnetic suspicion to make a microwave jealous. But the Storm Shadow is not trying to win an argument with the S-400. It is trying to avoid the conversation entirely. Its radar cross-section is tiny, around the size of a bird. A seagull with a turbojet, a 450-kilogram warhead, and extremely specific travel plans. The radar sees many things. The radar must decide which thing is death. It has minutes, maybe less. Inside the missile, the terrain referencing system is calm. It checks the surface below. It compares expected coastline features. It corrects its route. It keeps its altitude low enough to make long-range radars look over it. This is not speed alone. This is geometry. This is engineering with bad intentions. 504. Somewhere over southern Ukraine, minutes earlier, a Ukrainian Su-24M is already turning away. The release is clean. The pilot does not hang around to admire the shot, because Russian air defense is famously emotional about visitors. The aircraft has done its job. It has carried the cruise missile far enough. It has sent the weapon on its own private appointment with Russian command and control. The Su-24M disappears back into friendly airspace, old Soviet metal now carrying Western precision, like a Cold War ghost with NATO software. It is ugly, it is improvised, it works. Which, at this point, is basically the Ukrainian aerospace doctrine. The target building is waking up. Not fully. Command centers never really sleep. They nap in shifts, under fluorescent lights, beside coffee that tastes like burnt wiring. Inside, officers monitor air activity over Crimea and the Black Sea. Communications equipment hums. Satellite antennas on the roof point upward like metal flowers trying to phone home. Generator exhaust vents breathe heat into the morning. Encrypted data links connect this building to aircraft bases, repair facilities, radar nodes, and command networks. This place is not just an office, it is a nervous system, and Ukraine has selected the brainstem. 2 years and 8 months earlier, Russia learns this lesson once already. September 22, 2023, Voronina Street, the old Black Sea Fleet headquarters. Senior officers are inside. Ukrainian Special Operations Forces confirm the meeting. Storm Shadows arrive. The building is gutted. Smoke climbs above Sevastopol Bay. Russia abandons the historic headquarters and moves critical functions to Gogol Street. Different building, different address, same habit, same mistake. They believe relocation equals safety. Ukraine believes relocation equals updated coordinates. 5:06, 4 minutes to impact. The storm shadow approaches from the southwest. It is low enough that the sea almost owns it. At 4.5 kilometers from the coast, the missile briefly changes profile. It climbs just enough to refresh its position fix. Satellites confirm what the onboard inertial system already suspects. Position accuracy, tight. Course, correct. Target, waiting. Then it drops again. Back low, back under the radar's chin. The coastline rises ahead, apartment blocks, streets, naval base infrastructure. Sevastopol's waking city stacked between the missile and the men trying to kill it. The missile does not care about politics. It does not care about propaganda. It does not care how many times Russian television says air defense is perfect. The missile has a map, and the map says Gogol Street. A Panzer S-1 near the naval base perimeter catches something. Small contact, fast, low, closure rate nasty. The operators snap into their drill, track, classify, engage. The Panzer is designed for exactly this kind of unpleasant surprise. Short-range air defense, guns and missiles, a last-ditch bouncer at the door of important Russian things. But the problem is not detecting the storm shadow. The problem is detecting it in time. At 1.8 kilometers, the engagement window is brutally small, around 6 seconds. 6 seconds to confirm, 6 seconds to lock, 6 seconds to fire, 6 seconds to ask whether today is the day your training simulator stops being theoretical. Inside the Panzer cabin, hands move fast, too fast. The system calculates an intercept. The operators ripple fire. 2 missiles leap from the launcher, white smoke tearing into the air. For a moment, it looks like Russia has an answer. Then, the storm shadow changes the question. At around 1.1 kilometers from the target, the missile's imaging infrared seeker comes alive. Now the weapon stops trusting only coordinates. It starts looking. It scans the thermal scene below. Buildings, roofs, vents, antennas, heat signatures, geometric outlines. It compares what it sees with stored reference imagery. It does not need a flag. It does not need a street sign. It reads the target by its heat. Communications equipment on the roof. Generator exhaust, antenna array, the invisible signature of a command center trying very hard to look like a normal building. The missile identifies Gogol Street. Confidence rises. Course correction. The Panzer interceptors race in. The missile climbs sharply into its terminal maneuver, a bunt, a last-second upward pitch to set the best impact angle for the BROACH warhead. This is where the Panzer's math goes stale. The interceptors are flying toward where the missile was supposed to be. The missile is now somewhere ruder. Both interceptors pass beneath it. 2 expensive Russian rockets continue forward with the emotional energy of missed emails. The storm shadow keeps climbing for a fraction of a second. Then it dives. The missile strikes the headquarters building at a steep angle, 68 degrees of terminal violence. The roof does not explode outward immediately. First, the precursor charge does its job. A shaped copper jet forms in less time than a human brain can understand. It punches into reinforced concrete at several thousand meters per second. The roof gives way. The upper structure opens. A narrow channel tears through material designed to keep ordinary blasts outside. This is not an ordinary blast. This is a lockpick made of plasma and spite. Then, a blink later, the main charge arrives. 450 kilograms of high explosive enters the building and detonates inside the operational space. Not against the walls, inside them. The pressure wave expands outward at terrifying speed. Interior partitions fail at once. Ceiling panels become shrapnel. Consoles flip. Screens burst. Satellite uplinks, radar coordination terminals, encrypted communications racks. All of it disappears into heat, fragments, and an overpressure wave with no respect for organizational charts. The exterior walls remain standing. That is the cruel elegance of BROACH. From outside, the building still resembles a building. Inside, it becomes an argument nobody survives. Russia wanted a backup headquarters. Ukraine delivers a renovation. Open floor plan. Very open. For the first few seconds, there is silence of the worst kind. The silence after a pressure wave has slapped the air flat. Then, glass falls. Windows eject themselves across the street. Dust blooms from every opening. Smoke pushes outward, dirty black and gray, carrying insulation, paper, wiring, concrete powder, and the smell of burned electronics. Fire follows. It starts in the upper floors, then it crawls through rooms that no longer have doors. Communications racks burn hot. Diesel generator lines add fuel to the ugliness. The building coughs flame from window frames, like a furnace learning to breathe. Residents nearby hear the explosion and immediately understand 2 things. 1. Something important has been hit. 2. Nobody official will tell the truth about it. Phones come out anyway, because in 2026, even in occupied Crimea, the first responder is often a shaky hand with a camera and no patience for state television. Emergency vehicles move toward Gogol Street. Military police begin blocking roads. Air defense crews stare at their scopes and replay the last 30 seconds in their heads, searching for the exact moment confidence becomes debris. The Pantsir crew has fired. The target is still hit. The S-400 has watched. The command center is burning. Somewhere, a Russian officer is already preparing a statement involving falling debris, because apparently, debris in Crimea has developed extremely accurate targeting habits. Inside the headquarters, survivors try to move through smoke and collapsed interior walls. The problem is, the building has not simply been hit, it has been hollowed. The blast wave has moved through operational rooms and turned carefully organized command spaces into one shared pile of broken equipment. The satellite links are gone, the radar coordination nodes are gone, the encrypted data pathways are interrupted. The Black Sea Fleet's Air Operations Command is suddenly less of a command and more of a group chat with no signal. 5:30. The city starts understanding what happened. Smoke rises over Sevastopol Bay. Not fin smoke, not kitchen fire smoke, command center smoke, the kind that climbs with administrative consequences. Russian channels go quiet, then confused, then confident in mutually incompatible directions. One claims drones, another claims air defense intercepts, another says no serious damage, another accidentally shows the building burning behind a line of emergency trucks. Excellent media discipline, very convincing. By now, Ukrainian intelligence is watching too. Satellite passes, signals traffic, emergency services radio, local video. The strike is not just an explosion, it is a diagnostic test. What stops transmitting? Who starts shouting? Which unit goes silent? Which replacement node activates? Where do vehicles rush? A successful strike kills equipment. A very successful strike makes the enemy reveal what else matters. This one does both. The headquarters on Gogol Street is now a blackened shell, with its windows blown out and its upper structure chewed open. The basement windows remain mostly intact, stained with soot, like the building has tried to exhale through its own foundations. In the courtyard, military trucks arrive. Ambulances move in and out. Large, dark bags begin appearing near vehicles. Nobody gives a number. Numbers are dangerous. Numbers become headlines. Headlines become questions. Questions become somebody in Moscow discovering that the relocated and protected command node has just been turned into a smoking filing cabinet. The beauty of this strike, from Kiev's perspective, is not only the destruction, it is the message. Russia moved the Black Sea Fleet command structure once after Ukraine hit it. Ukraine found it again. Russia hardened the network. Ukraine mapped the heat. Russia layered air defense around Sevastopol. Ukraine flew under it, around it, through its blind spots, and over its last-second intercept. There was nowhere left to hide. The Russian defense failure is not one failure. It is a stack of small failures, arranged neatly into a large embarrassment. First, radar horizon. Low-flying cruise missiles exploit Earth curvature and terrain masking. Big radar sees far, but not through the planet. This continues to surprise people who believe power solves geometry. Second, radar cross-section. Storm Shadow is not invisible, but it is small on radar, small enough to blend with clutter until the timeline becomes cruel. Third, approach planning. The missile's route is not random. It threads toward the target along a vector that compresses point defense reaction time and complicates engagement zones. Fourth, terminal maneuver. The Pantsir fires at a calculated intercept. The missile changes profile. The interceptors pass under. Everyone gets a physics lesson. Attendance is mandatory. Fifth, warhead design. The BROACH warhead does not need to flatten the entire building from the outside. It enters, then detonates. That means the structure can look partially intact, while the interior becomes a blender full of radios, officers, and bad decisions. Russia builds a command center. Ukraine sends a locksmith.